Hey, thanks for joining us today for the first episode of Digital Warriors. I'm Dave Barnes from Spider Web Development, and both myself and my co-host Tyson Buck from IM Web Pros sincerely hope that each and every episode of Digital Warriors provides you with valuable insight and advice on important topics you all need to understand and incorporate into your business model.
Dave Barnes, CEO Spider Web Development, 20-year experienced pro web developer, hundreds of Tier 1 clients across the country in every major market. Tyson Buck, CEO IM Web Pros. Tyson manages a team of senior marketing specialists who have over 100 combined years of experience in the marketing industry. In today's episode, we will get into an in-depth discussion on the use of AdWords in your marketing plan.
Tyson and I, to some might say, come from competing companies, and I can guarantee you that we will have different perspectives on how things are done, and we won't agree on some things, but that's good for you. The purpose of this show is to give you the best tips, tricks, and advice in areas of digital marketing that most companies in our industry won't even begin to explain to you. So Tyson, tell me, what's the big difference from your perspective about AdWords and AdWords Express?
Definitely, it's going to be settings. You're very limited on Express. Express is meant for an individual to put in their content, build their ads, and then do nothing else with it. Just set it and forget it, basically. Express essentially is a money pit. That's what Express does for you.
Yeah, I think that we would probably both agree on that. That's the first thing I tell people is don't waste your time. It's just you just can't drill down as deeply as you want. And a lot of times too, I don't know if you hear this a lot, but I hear people thinking that AdWords and analytics, just because they have Google in front of it, Google AdWords or Google Analytics are the same thing. And then they wonder, what's PPC? I was watching this video show the other day on YouTube, and somebody mentioned it was a builder's show, and a contractor was talking about PPC, and I thought, oh, cool, they're going to talk about their AdWords campaign. But actually, what he was talking about was perpetual plumber's crack. So a totally different thing. But to make it clear, AdWords is a PPC or pay-per-click advertising program. And analytics is where we go and get all the data, the reports, find out what people are doing once they get to your website. So they're two separate things, but they are linked together.
You definitely need to utilize both, tools in doing your optimizations.
Yep, and I think that the one tip too that I'm going to give people right now is that when you are setting up your Google Analytics or your Google accounts, you want to make sure that you always use the same login. A lot of times what will happen is somebody will set up a Google account for like their Gmail, and they'll think that that's separate from their Yahoo or their Analytics or their AdWords, and then all of a sudden they've got all these different accounts set up with these different logins, and then we can't link them together. So it's really important that you remember that one login controls all Google stuff. YouTube, Gmail, Analytics, AdWords, Search Console, all tied into the same account. So hey, Tyson, tell me, what do you think are the top 3 things that you would recommend to somebody that's getting into AdWords on their own and trying to get started with this concept?
Yeah, the first thing is definitely going to be keywords. Get you a good keyword list built up. You can do research using Google Keywords Planner. You can estimate what your traffic's going to be. You can even estimate what your budget needs to be. So that's a great tool to use, and that's a good starting point.
Well, so this is probably a good point for us to talk about the fact that we approach this from different perspectives. When I get into, I'm usually working with people that are just getting started that have never done AdWords before, versus Tyson's company where IM Web Pros, that's what they do. They manage accounts, they get in there, and they get down in the weeds with it. For me, it's a little bit different because over the 20 years that I've been working with the event rental business, I've actually created a list. I've got a list that's, 250 plus keywords that are expanded on based on the various types of different phrases that all mean the same thing, like bounce house, moonwalk, bouncy castle, jumper, whatever it is. And then I get into editing the keyword based on the search terms list and then modifying it that way. So we have a different way of going about it But I think the ultimate thing that you're probably what you're saying is that we want to get a list together and start honing in on it to make sure it's perfected for the campaign. So what would be the next thing on your list then?
Personally, campaigns. Build out several campaigns, do some A/B split testing. Find out what works best in your market, in your area. Somebody in California might, be better off with text ads versus display ads. Go in and do testing and really find out what's working for you best and build upon that.
So do you think that, when you start doing that, do you have kind of like a set way that you go about creating your campaigns? Because I have a different approach to it. Like I said, when I get into them, I'm basically starting to get people down. I want to keep it simple so that we got kind of the cookies on the bottom shelf perspective. And at that point, I like to have just a general campaign that allows me to start teaching them about areas that they need to understand with the AdWords tools, how the settings work and things like that. And then as that progresses, what we like to do is show them a return on the investment. Because I think the big thing here, for at least from my view, is that I want people's first impressions of AdWords to be a positive one, so that they're more apt to eventually maybe grow into somebody like yourself and get more advanced services. But I think that for me, I like to keep it simple and have a general campaign, and then build off of that, build campaigns after that fact.
Yeah, and that's a great plan. And like you were talking about, the ROI. That's kind of where we come in to better that ROI. You're definitely going to get customers. You're definitely going to get traffic using Google AdWords. Using the method that you're talking about. But there's things that you can go in, and it takes a lot of time and effort. But there's things you can do to go in and better that ROI and build upon that. So
right. Do you have what's been your experience on campaigns for a items? Do you look at a category more for a campaign rather than a item? Like, let's say water slides as a category versus photo booth as an item. Have you had any feel for that in terms of the campaign producing a return on the investment?
Yeah, and so that's the thing. It's different based off of the market. And a lot of it has to do with web design and stuff. If you've got a great category page that displays all of your products in a user-friendly manner, where the UI is nice looking and everything, then category pages might be a good link to target with pay-per-click advertising. Now, when it comes into bigger ticket items, like a lot of my customers have virtual reality roller coasters.
That's hot this year. The virtual roller coaster thing is just really big, and probably that's why I'm questioning you on it, because I think that we're probably going to see in the next 6 months, or at least into the next season, we're going to see a lot of people wanting to build campaigns around that product.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so you should. I mean, that's a big ticket item. You definitely want to get it out there and get people to see it.
So at that point, you would recommend probably just taking time before the campaign starts. It would probably behoove an advertiser to make sure that their virtual reality page is a great, strong, let's say, salesman for a landing page.
Absolutely. If you send somebody to a website that just doesn't look appeasing, then they're going to bounce. People want to do business with things that look pretty. That's just the way it is.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So what would be number 3 on your list then? So we talked about keywords. We talked about campaigns, more or less. What's number 3 on your hit list?
Number 3 would be optimizing your bidding structure. You want to check your metrics, your click-through rate, of course, clicks, of course. Play with the bids and kind of really fine-tune, get in there and fine-tune your bidding structure. And you'll have to keep an eye on this. As your competitors makes changes, then you're going to have to make changes as well. Google AdWords is a think of it like an auction site happening within milliseconds. You are actually bidding against other people. So as they change their bids, you will have to go in and change your bids as well. It's something that you really need to stay on top of.
So at this point, I think that you and I would probably both agree that Google is not our friend. They are there to make money. They are there to make money, and when they call you on a regular basis saying, oh, we've got just a plan for you, they have just a plan for you to get more clicks. And so this is probably a good time to talk about pitfalls and the fact that Google's entire intent is, and you gotta believe me on this one, they want you to get more clicks. They don't care about your conversions. In fact, they probably don't know the first thing about what you're counting as a conversion. They like to talk about it a lot, but they don't really know. And they don't know how to count those conversions. What they do know how to count real well are clicks. And from what I've seen, and you can expound on this yourself, Tyson, but I've seen that everything they do is designed to maximize clicks, not maximize conversions. And then they even got that new setting now where it says, oh, in your bidding strategy, let's go with maximize conversions. But there's nothing there about what conversions are. So how do you approach your strategies?
Definitely don't use that setting. Nobody should use that setting. When you give Google control over your ads, you're essentially telling them spend whatever you want to spend. And that's the thing. You might be getting thousands and thousands of clicks, but that doesn't mean that you're getting conversions. Clicks and conversions are two different things, and there's a lot that you have to do, and people like you and I have to do, to go in and make sure that once people do actually click through to the site, that they stay there and they become a customer and they convert.
Exactly. So, we just mentioned one thing here in the settings. So I think that this is another area. If you're not careful about how you're setting up your campaigns, and this is where I spend most of my time with a new AdWords advertiser, is making sure that your settings are set correctly. One big example, years ago when I've been using AdWords since AdWords was around. And I remember when they first started allowing us to target, there were no additional settings for targeting. You just said, okay, I want to do Chicago, and that was it. They targeted everything in Chicago. Later on, they kind of got in with drilling down a little farther. We could do, zip codes. We could do, radiuses and things like that. But then all of a sudden, we started getting complaints from advertisers because, lo and behold, I'm just supposedly targeting Chicago, but I got clicks coming from New York, from Florida, from California. And then, lo and behold, when we started questioning Google reps about, hey, how is this possible? We're targeting Chicago. And they said, well, they had an interest in Chicago. Well, that's not what we said. So now what they did was, and this goes back probably 2 years now, they came out with another setting that said, okay, location options. And of course, the default setting that they had there for that was people interested in or close by, or maybe has a grandmother living in your targeted area. And then the next one, and of course it defaulted to that one, but then the next one was only people in your targeted area. And so that's where you want to switch it to. Well, they've just changed it again. Yesterday when Tyson and I were talking about, the things that we wanted to bring to the table here in today's episode, I said, look at the wording that they just used on this new secondary option. And it said, people in or who are occasionally in your targeted area. So they're still protecting themselves to show your ads all over the place. Be careful and make sure that if your Google rep does call you and you decide to spend more than 60 seconds talking to them, say, yeah, I'd like to know how somebody in Chicago was able to click on my ad when I'm only targeting people in California. Answer me that.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things, and I get calls all the time. Oh, well, Google called and said I needed to do this, or they called and said I needed to do this. What people need to realize is when Google calls you, first of all, you're going to get a lot of people calling you that are going to say they are Google when they're really not. They're maybe partners of Google. But however, when Google, and they do, Google reps will call you. And when they do, what people need to realize is, these people that are calling you are not marketing specialists. Yes, they know AdWords, but they know it enough to read off of a knowledge base that Google has created. Now, granted, I'm sure working there throughout time, they learn a few things, but their goal is to make you spend more money, not to get you conversions. So as far as a knowledge standpoint of what really needs to be done to manage your campaign, they're just not going to be any help for you.
Make sure to check out IM Web Pros. They're doing great work.
The IM Web Pros team consists of over 50 talented individuals with a combined total of over a century of experience in the web industry. We have 3 offices around the world, and this enables us to run a 24-hour business for the most demanding clients. The IM Web Pros team will be there for you in every step of your project, giving you the highest quality and the quickest turnaround in the industry.
And when you need help with your website, or you're building a brand new one from the ground up, contact Spider Web Development, where we have the most award-winning designs and top-ranked websites in every major market in the country. Most of all, thanks for joining us here today, and let us know what you'd like to hear about in the future, or if you've got questions about what we talked about. Stay tuned as we bring you insight from the best of the best in digital marketing, and watch for the next episode of Digital Warriors.